Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. So as you know, here at Wellness Theory, we are helping growth seekers to integrate their heart, mind, body and soul. And it's important for us to cover why that's actually necessary.
So thinking about it this way, guys, what happens when you're sick? You go and see a doctor. Or what happens if you want to improve your health and fitness? You'll usually go seek out a trainer or help with a fitness professional. And what happens if you've kind of got these kind of negative thoughts and emotions that are going around? You usually go and see a therapist. Or if you want some kind of guidance in your life, you might go and seek a spiritual advisor. But the problem comes when there is kind of no communication between all of these people.
It's so true, right? The problem comes when we actually treat ourselves in that way, and we kind of segregate, and we will go and see specific people for specific things, and they're not talking to each other, which means there's no possible way they could have a good 360 perspective of what's going on. And we create even more separation within. That's the way that we behave when we go and actually physically see people practically, but we do this within our thinking about our wellness too. We see that our nutrition is something that helps us physically, right? With some, most people this is, right? Not always everybody, but essentially, when we create this separation, what we're actually ignoring is the whole notion that actually we work in complete unison. That's how we actually function, is when we incorporate all of these elements together: heart, body, mind and soul.
And it's kind of safe to say that majority of people really focus on the physical aspects. Like Charlotte said, we focus on nutrition, on moving, training, all these kind of physical side of it. And we tend to forget about the kind of other areas that are included in wellness. And just think about that, your body is just a vessel, okay, that just guides you through your life. So that's what you think about as is the physical kind of vessel that just guides you throughout your life.
Exactly. And when we focus only on the physical, we're focusing usually because you don't want to look good or feel good, or you want more energy, all of these kind of things. But what we fail sometimes to understand is that when we take care of the mental, emotional, spiritual side, that helps the physical performance and helps the physical body. Athletes know this. This is why they have a well-rounded approach. They don't just have one coach. They will have a team around them that assist.
Okay, and so a quick question here for you guys is, have you ever been like so consistent with your eating, with your exercise, your sleep, and you've been on it all the time, but you still feel that you're lacking energy? You still feel that you have constant pain or niggles all the time.
So common, isn't it?
And they just won't go away. And you're just not getting the result that you're really, really aiming for. And even though you're being very, very strict with literally all areas of the physical side of your eating, your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep, and so on.
It could also be, though, that you're kind of on the flip side of that, and just the thought alone of all of these healthy habits creates struggle, right? It will create overwhelm potentially. How do you possibly keep up with all of these different elements of your own well-being when you've got a career to think about, you've got your family to think about, you've got your social life, you've got your own personal growth to think about, right? Paying attention to all of these as a whole is essential. If you're experiencing any of the things that we've just mentioned, the consistency to even take action, or you taking action but you're still not getting the results, there is a strong sign. This is a massive indicator that you need to start paying attention to your wellness as a whole, because there'll be one of those elements that is kind of probably lacking somewhere.
This is something that I did for a long time back in the day when I first started in my career about nearly 2 decades ago in kind of the health and wellness industry. So I used to train so hard. My mentality of training, and the people I used to train with could basically attest to that I was training 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day. And the intensity was nuts, and I was eating like so much food, and so strict as well. I mean, literally, I would no alcohol, no sugars, no fast food. It was all whole foods, so-called healthy foods. But I was eating so much of it, and I was restricting. I wouldn't go socialize. I wouldn't eat out, because everything I think I know I can't, because I can't get those foods that I need to put into my body to optimize my performance and get the body I want. And I was doing that so much, but I was still lacking energy. I was still fatigued. I was literally falling asleep by lunchtime. My sleep patterns were erratic. And I thought, okay, maybe I need to train harder. I need to eat more. I need to change the way I eat. And I was just kept piling it on and piling it on. And I was literally 100% of my focus was going into my physical body, into my nutrition, my training to try and get what I wanted. But the funny thing is I wasn't actually getting where I wanted to go. And I just kept thinking I had to train more, or I had to train more intense, or I had to eat differently. And not at the time, it didn't even kind of enter my mind that there was something missing, that there was other parts of wellness that I needed to focus on. And it took me kind of a good few years before I realized that those missing elements of wellness are basically what I needed to help kind of flip my perspective on things and make those changes. And now my training is probably 10% of the intensity and the quantity that I used to do, but my results are literally 100% better than they used to be.
And it's effortless,
yeah,
right?
and it's effortless.
You're not resisting
No.
and like pushing uphill the whole time.
Exactly. It's just absolutely crazy. So what we're going to do now is just shed some light on some of the less obvious sides of wellness that I neglected massively for years.
Yeah, and since you've focused on them, it's changed the game massively.
Completely,
right?
definitely.
So guys, let's start with the emotional body, right? You've heard us speak a lot about emotions before, but essentially the emotional body is the part within us that stores and processes our emotions. And you know, emotions are a form of energy, aren't they? You know this, we've talked about this before in other various videos and on other platforms and such. But that this energy carries a charge. It carries something in our system. The emotions are the things that we feel, those sensations, that's all coming from an energy. And that's coming from your energy body. Your emotional body and your energy body. It's coming from that emotional place that gets to organise these things for you. But so many people still struggle with stress and anxiety, even though we get these little signs from our emotions of how we kind of maybe should be dealing with them. And the thing is, we tend to feel stress and anxiety a lot of the time, and not only, but most of the time people are experiencing these things because they haven't learned how to communicate with their emotional body yet. We haven't learned the lessons that we need to learn so that we can actually cope and have a healthier relationship with it.
So have you ever kind of had that feeling, or you snapped at someone, you kind of just felt something bubbling away inside? That's something that we all have. I've definitely had that many times in the past, but it's just that feeling deep down, and you just feel that you have no control over it, and then all of a sudden someone says something or someone does something, something happens, and you explode. Like, as you feel like you have no control over, you explode, and you literally just snap at someone, say something, shout at someone, or just do something. And then it's kind of like looking at yourself from the outside going, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then once it's all over, you go, why did I do that? It's like, it kind of doesn't make sense, and you don't know where it came from. And it's just, it's just kind of that bubble, it's a feeling just bubbles away, and it just explodes out of nowhere, and it just affects the people around you.
Definitely. And like usually you feel after that some kind of regret or apology, and that's coming because like those emotions are coming because your cup is full, right? Your cup is full, or you're disconnected or dissociated with what you're thinking in those moments, right? Because when we get that worked up, where we're going to snap, the intelligent part of our mind goes off, and then we're just operating from our primal instincts. So if we can make sure our cup isn't full of these kind of unresolved negative emotions, then it's far less likely that you're going to snap. Far, far less likely. You'll be able to catch yourself before, if needed, as well. So in that moment, it's your emotions are communicating with you to say, pay attention to me, pay attention, otherwise I'm going to make you do something that you don't want to do, right? That's essentially what's going on some level.
Definitely, and that's one of the ways that obviously those signals can show up in terms of your emotional perspective. But also, you may have also learned that not to speak up when something is wrong, so you're doing the opposite. Instead of actually exploding, you're withdrawing and bottling everything up. You're not doing anything at all. So you can see something's happening and you think, okay, that's not right, that shouldn't happen, or okay, actually I don't agree with that. And you've been taught, or you've learned somewhere along the line that it's not okay to voice your opinion or to speak up about it or express yourself. And you just don't. You just keep it in and keep it in and keep it in, and that just keeps layering on top of each other. And then that stress just builds.
And that's kind of what I went through, right? So it was more the second thing that John mentioned there, of that not really expressing myself. So whereas he, with his teams or whatever, would it kind of explode or snap or operate from a place of emotion or fear or whatever, I would be the opposite way. Rather than snapping, I wouldn't necessarily speak up and say what it was that I felt, and that also isn't a healthy place to be, because we're still not actually dealing with the emotions at hand. Because what's happening in that instance is we're still filling up our cup, but we're doing it quietly and we're suppressing emotion. And when we do that, we tend to then ignore them. And then again, this is not everybody. Sometimes you'll express them, or you express them in your own way, and that's good if you are doing that. But the majority of people are not doing it. A majority of people are keeping it inside, thinking that they'll just go away. Right? That was me. I would think, okay, well, I felt angry about something, it'll pass, it'll go. Right? And sometimes it will pass if it's like little charge, but if it's something that has actually really caused that kind of physical sensation within me, and it's really kind of, feeling it in my core that it was something that drove me crazy or whatever, I didn't express it, I didn't learn from it, I didn't complete that release process. And that is essential for us to be healthy, because if we don't, these emotions and this energy will lay in wait inside of our body, and it will start to manifest in different behaviours or in different thoughts. For example, unserving thoughts. When people start to think things that they don't necessarily want to think, this is usually coming from a space of just lack of awareness of what's going on and how they're expressing their emotions.
And yeah, it's pretty much exactly the kind of route I went down of I had a lot of unserving behaviours and thoughts, but again, I wasn't really paying attention to my emotions or kind of why they were happening. I just thought they were normal. It's what I grew up with. It's what I've experienced all the time. So I thought, okay, this is how things are supposed to be. And this is how I used to kind of operate when I was in the corporate fitness world, when I was as a fitness manager, working with a team. I was completely like, I show you once, I tell you once, you do it right. It's like, how could someone not get that? And then when that didn't happen, let's just say the Hulk would come out, and that's when people would be literally running scared. I would kind of manage my fear, but it wasn't intentional. I wasn't doing that thinking I want people to be scared of me. I was doing that because that's how I've been doing it most of my life. And it was all that stress, those unserving emotions, those behaviors. I didn't realize at the time how much they were affecting not just me, but the people around me, and the effect it was actually having on the team as a whole. It took me a while to realize that I had control over my emotions. People could not control how stressed I get. No matter what they do, I control if I let them. And once I realized that, my stress went, and I started to see a different perspective and a different approach on how to deal with situations and deal with people. And that's when kind of I started to look into my emotions a bit more and realize that, okay, this is what's coming out and this is why this is happening. And I actually have control over that. And it was just kind of a bit refreshing and liberating, really.
Definitely. We've learned so much from our own personal experiences. We've learned so much from working with so many coaching clients, right? And the real learning here is that the lesson needs to be learned as how to communicate with our emotional body. We need to learn what is it trying to tell us. We need to learn how to communicate. We need to learn how to resolve unresolved issues. And we really, really need to learn how to amplify those positive emotions too, because there's so many benefits from doing that.
Definitely, yes. And there's just so much evidence, okay, so much literally research-backed evidence out there to show that our emotions have basically they support our whole body. They have these healing effects. They have these healing properties within us, and this helps to improve our quality of life. Again, but we all experience emotions. You can't not experience emotions.
You're a human being.
You're a human being, exactly.
Okay, all emotions are okay to experience.
Exactly. Whether you call them good or bad, no such thing. They're all good. It's just how you express them is how we go. And the problem is that most of us are walking through life completely unaware of our emotions, our emotional state. We don't even know what's happening. And we tend to actually put our emotions on the back burner. And when this happens, we tend to explode. Everything just goes, it just gets, again, like Charlotte said, they get repressed, and we don't even aware of them to the point where something happens and we explode and everything just goes crazy.
Yeah, and you're forced to become aware of them. One thing that I like, everything that John's mentioned, especially about his own personal experiences as well, is about how he had to understand that actually all these outside things couldn't define if he gets stressed or not. and it's true for all of us, if we're aware of what's going on and how we're thinking and how we are perceiving the situation, we then get to affect it. And that kind of leads us on nicely into the mind element, our mental constructs that we live in. Because essentially we all are creating our own reality based on what we've experienced in the past, right? So we're all living in our memories in one way or another. So we will only think that we're going to get stressed because our boss is going to find out we didn't do this or do that, for example. But actually the reality is you boss might not even be stressed because of that, full stop. You might not even get into trouble for not doing anything. That's just something that your mind has created. There's many different examples of things like this, that we're living in these like truths and these beliefs that we have and these images from our memories that they may not be serving you anymore. And having the perception that John did, that if he eats super healthy, trains 6 days a week, and is trained twice a day, and like only restricted himself to certain food groups and all of these kind of things, he genuinely believed that was going to allow him to be healthier, until at some point he had that light bulb moment where it's like, hey, no, maybe there's more to this. He believed that was how it was, that was how reality was, until we got to the point where he had to open his mind and look differently, right? Definitely. Because essentially, if we're not doing this and we're not questioning our mental constructs, then it can really become a problem. We need to look at our psychological paradigms and see what world it is we're kind of creating for ourselves. And listen, we do this all the time. We respond to what we are thinking to be true. Let me give you a super simple, very different example to this. Most people, when they get dressed in the morning, or when they're about to leave the house, they will check that they're wearing something suitable for the weather, like so that they're warm enough or cool enough, depending on where they are in the world and all of these things, right? But we do that from looking out the window. We look out the window and we're like, okay, it looks like it's sunny today, and then you dress accordingly. Whereas actually you haven't been outside yet to know what the temperature is. You are just going into your memory bank and thinking, okay, last time it was like this, it was this temperature, and then you dress yourself accordingly. You don't actually know for a fact until you go out there and you experience it and you open yourself up to be able to receive it. So a big part of us using our mind here in terms of wellness is to just make sure that you're aware of what your perceptions are and how that's affecting your health.
Definitely. But we all have the opportunity as human beings to really begin to understand that we can influence our own mindset.
Yes.
Okay, we can influence it. And we influence it by shifting to wellness to include all elements of wellness, the mind, heart, body, and soul. And this helps to boost positive psychology, which helps to basically just improve your overall quality of life.
When we've got that robust psychology, we are then able to just thrive. We're able to then step into like the depths of who it is we really are. We can leverage our well-being. And one of the ways we do that, and this is something that I found, and this brings us into us talking about more of the soul and the spiritual side of our wellness. Because when we tap into this kind of spiritual side of ourselves, the spiritual body, the spiritual being that we are, which is fundamental to all human experience, we can start to tap into this essence of flow within ourselves, right? This is when we get to really pay attention to it rather than it being overlooked, because our spirituality is probably the most overlooked and neglected area of wellness that I've probably ever experienced.
For sure. And God, I was kind of like, I think many of you can probably relate to out there, and there's probably also still a lot of people out there, was when anyone used to mention the word spirituality to me, I would just like, shut off. It's like, no, switch off completely. It's too wooey for me. Yeah. It's like, I didn't understand what it was. It just didn't make sense to me in what I was doing at that time. Everything for me was physical. It was like, okay, what has spirituality got to do with anything? Why are you telling me this?
And even then, when you started to learn more about the emotions and the mental side, even then it was still like, we still don't get where spirituality comes in. Even though we sold on the other three, this one was still like, maybe not.
But implementing that spiritual side just changed the game completely for my physical side, in terms of my pain, needles, all that type of stuff. It was just absolutely nuts. And the funny thing is, spirituality means different things for different people. Okay, so and that's the thing. It's not this is what it is. It's you have to do this. is different. It depends on what you want to perceive it as. And no matter what your perception is, it will have an influence over your wellness. Okay, there is no one size fits all approach. It's got to be individual to you.
Yeah, guys, listen, it's so true. This is something that's so close to my heart, because when you really start to experience your systems like working in such flow and in such alignment, you're able to kind of put that final piece of the puzzle into play. And when you put that final piece of the puzzle in, you get to experience life just from a very different perspective, and you feel very differently too. You will literally feel healthier and lighter when you start to accept that this is part of your well-being and your health overall.
Exactly. And once your spiritual kind of body is taken care of, your thoughts, your emotions, your physical body, all of those elements, they help. It helps you kind of unlock and create this flow, which unlocks even more potential within inside of you.
And how many times do our clients come to us and say, I want to fulfill my potential, or I don't feel like I'm fulfilling my potential? And it's usually because you're just looking in one place, and that could be career, it could be mindset, it could be the way you're thinking. Like, there's so many different elements and ways that you can think about it here too. So essentially, when we take care of kind of our spiritual side of things, we get to experience this flow. And I experienced this, like how these four elements kind of integrated in a very kind of backwards kind of way. I think I was very much always around like the bit like John, the physical side of things. I was eating well, training regularly, taking care of the physical side. I also had my own wake-up calls and was like, okay, I need to start paying attention to my emotional side and my thoughts and my spiritual well-being. And I was like, well, this is amazing, right? Now this is just incredible, because now, like, if my thoughts are in the right place, my emotions are sound, and I'm really learning how to evolve and step into who it is I think that I am, and what all of that actually means from a spiritual essence, then actually we realize we're way more powerful than what we thought. But what I did is I actually then started to neglect the physical side. So at the beginning, I was neglecting the mental, the emotional and spiritual side, and focusing only on physical. But then I went and flipped that on its head, and I actually then just started to focus more on, okay, well, the mind and the heart and the soul, and I started to neglect the physical. And there was always that kind of something that I wasn't on top of. I wasn't necessarily taking care of all of those elements and experiencing that flow. I was like, well, why am I still kind of missing this feeling or this thought? What was going on? And it was because I was failing to integrate all four together. And that's why we are so passionate about bringing this to the masses as much as we possibly can.
Exactly. So think about it, guys. Basically, one doesn't work without the other. Okay, so emotional doesn't work without physical. Physical doesn't work without mental. Mental doesn't work without spiritual. Everything is connected. Okay, and so just focus on that. Don't think, oh, I need to work on this one or this one. It's all one.
Exactly that, right? It's not separate. They all work together. Optimum performance comes when we embrace all four elements together. And when we're embracing all these four elements, we get to thrive. We get to experience full flow of what it is to be human.
Exactly. So just look at your health from a big picture perspective. And while it's okay to think, okay, I haven't really looked after myself that well, so I'm going to be kind of in that reactive state of thinking, what can I do? That's good as a starting point. But our goal and our key here is to be proactive, okay? And not just to wait till something happens and then go, how do I fix it? Let's go, okay, what can I do now that is going to basically give me what I want when I'm 80, 90, 100 years old? Not just what I'm going to do now is going to give me what I want in 6 months' time. So we want to be proactive, and by doing this, it's going to help to future-proof ourselves. Again, which is going to help us to live a more vibrant, full life.
Absolutely, guys. Like I've said, like integrating all of these gives the full human experience. Zooming in on only one really leaves a lot to be desired. So it's essential that we are embracing all of it so that we can live the life that we're supposed to be living, I believe.
Definitely, guys. And kind of that being said, that this is obviously your journey, okay? And we are here to meet you where you currently are, which is why we created a quiz. Okay, we created a quiz for you guys. This is to help assess your overall wellness score. And this score will show you kind of what areas that kind of need attention to help you just get the most out of kind of your wellness in relation to mind, body, heart, and soul.
Definitely, you guys. You can find that quiz, which is awesome, by the way, at thewellnesstheory.com. Okay, when you complete that quiz, which is absolutely free to you, you're going to get a great insight as to what you need to be working on, and we will also be sharing some training, some tips, tricks and tools that you'll be able to use to improve any area you want to improve. So head on over to that website, thewellnesstheory.com, and you'll be able to go through that quiz and find out what is going on with you right now, so that you know what your wellness score is and how you can move forwards.
Nice, guys. So in summary, guys, optimum wellness comes from an integrated approach. So to help you understand that we work best when we integrate heart, mind, body, and soul.
And when we do that, we can then treat ourselves accordingly, and we know what we need to do on a daily basis so that we can experience that.
Awesome. So hope you enjoyed what we've been speaking about, and you've taken a lot of information from there. It's really made you think and kind of just question a few things that could possibly be different in your life.
Let us know.
So yeah, let us know, and we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye.